Hi everyone, this is Lada from Astrolada.com, and today we're not going to talk astrology, we're going to talk a much more universal topic, a topic that I'm getting more and more into. I'm here today with writer, speaker, author, and parenting coach, Sharon Ballantine. Hi, Sharon.
Hi, Lada. How are you? Nice to see you.
Thank you so much for joining me. You've been highly recommended by friends, by my best friend, basically. And she said you use a lot the law of attraction, conscious living, deliberate living, and your specialty is parenting. Basically, you even have a book that's called The Art of Blissful Parenting, and how appropriate to talk about that when I'm on the verge of giving birth again. And we have 75% female subscribers on the channel. So I'm sure so many women will be interested in what you have to say about parenting.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate being here. And it's a universal subject, isn't it? For the most part, parenting. And we all want to be the best parents we can be, but we don't always know what that looks like. How we should do it.
I definitely don't. Yet I'm learning day by day. I'll really appreciate your advice on that.
It is day by day, even when our children are grown, and I have 3 grown children, it's still day by day. And we're learning. Just because they turn 18, we're not finished. It just changes. Every day as our kids get older, it changes. And we have to be willing to be in that particular moment to guide our kids.
It's a lot about flexibility and constantly basically adapting to the needs of a human being, which never stay the same year after year.
Exactly. Well said. That's really well said, because it's constantly changing. We're evolving, our kids are evolving, and we have to keep up with that. If we try and hold on to old ideas or how we used to do something, even if it worked, we have to be willing to reinvent the wheel yet again. But it's exciting. We have to have a good attitude about it, a positive attitude. That helps a lot.
Yes, because it's progress, it's evolution, it's growth. And they say that the children, and often in astrology also, since I'm an astrologer,
Yes.
We see the most karmic connection one has is with children, in a positive and in a challenging way as well. Like no one else presses our buttons, they say, like children. And I see it in the horoscope. Such powerful overlays rarely happen even between spouses as it happened with our children. So we need, these are the biggest teachers for consciousness growing, our children for us. Actually, we're not their teachers. They are our teachers for our own spiritual growth and growth as a human being.
It's really true. And when we become conscious of that, meaning noticing when our children have just taught us a lesson, it feels better and things go a lot smoother. Just keeping in mind that we're constantly learning from our kids. It goes both ways. It's a beautiful circle.
Yeah, rather than thinking that we're the owners and the creators of this life and that they should do what we want, or that they should, or projecting our expectations on them, unfulfilled, as they say, unfulfilled dreams. And I guess the biggest lesson that I also always remind myself is that my child is a guest here, and I'm just a facilitator for him, rather than, I'm not the creator. I'm not the...
It's right. Yes. And sometimes that can be such a challenge to remember, because we want the best for our kids. We want them to have everything. And I had to learn all of those things you just mentioned the hard way, because I really thought I was here to kind of control their destiny, because I knew better, because I had more life experience and I wanted things to turn out well for them. But it's all in my book. None of that worked in trying to control our kids. It's really about inspiring and guiding as opposed to controlling. It never works. Our children are here on their own path to find their own way of creating what they want to do. And once I learned that, things went a lot better. A lot better.
As your book says, it's blissful parenting. Like these 2 words together, blissful and parenting.
They don't, right? Yeah. They don't really go together, but you can have more bliss in your parenting By just being more chill, more relaxed, more allowing of your own well-being, and allowing your kids to figure out their own well-being. And that comes with learning the hard lessons. You know, we can be afraid as parents to let our kids learn those hard lessons because they might get hurt in some way. But haven't we learned from our own life experience that is how we evolve, how we progress, how we learn our lessons? By hitting that wall hard. We have to, but we get afraid. We become afraid as parents sometimes. And it's just remembering those things and allowing our kids to find their way that, you know, makes for the best parenting, the more blissful parenting.
So even if it's breaking our heart, that they're breaking their heart, so that they're doing the wrong thing, we should express our concerns maybe, but let them do it anyway, because that's the only way they're going to learn, by that hard experience.
Yes, and it's not about not saying anything, because we have to live up to our own ideal of, you know, who we want to be as parents. It's important for us to be exactly who we want to be, but we have to make sure and be careful not to be attached to any end result with our children. So it's important to express our views and maybe our desires for, you know, helping them. But really, they have to learn their own way, and we have to be able to stand beside them, allow them their mistakes, and be there to support them. And that is the hard part, but that is the gift of parenting. That is the gift to your child, is learning how to do that.
So instead of giving them ultimatums and kind of bullying them into something, and we start even from the age of 1, like, if you don't do that, and we should explain it in a gentle way, and say, my advice would be, or, you know, but where is the fine line? Because for some things you have to make them do, like, you can't just let them eat whatever they want. And where does it define what things can we be a bit more insistent on and imposing, and what things do we have to? There must be some things, especially for younger babies and children, that we can't let them make their choices and watch them.
Okay, well, I love how you put that on the table, because, I mean, at the end of the day, it has to be kind of all or nothing. It can't be just part way. And yes, our job, of course, is to keep our children safe. We can't just allow them everything and hope for the best. Of course, you know, I get that. But children learn at a very young age how to make safe choices. You know, we give our children choices on what to wear, the food color, you know, all sorts of different things. We instinctively know how to start them in a soft way. But anyone who has children understands that kids have their own mind, and they want to do things a certain way. And even if we don't agree with that, I always felt, you know, once I learned this lesson, that as long as it didn't put them in mortal danger, even if I disagreed with their choice, it's important to allow them to do it. Because let's take, for example, a friendship, just as an example, a friendship your child wants to have, and for whatever reason, at whatever age, you don't like that child. And I think we've all been there, or will be there, as our kids get older and their souls choose their own friends. And with our own frame of reference, we don't like that child. It's really important, and I had to learn this myself, is each child chooses their friends on their own soul level. And they're going to learn lessons from that other child, that friend, even if we're not aware of what those lessons are. It's important to let your children make their own choices, even and especially when we don't agree. Again, as long as those choices aren't, that we know of, putting them in mortal danger, that doesn't make sense in good parenting. But it is important to teach our kids how to tap into their own feelings, their own internal guidance. I call it the internal guidance system.
Because that's the only way they're going to trust it.
Exactly. Yeah. And we all have it, our heart, our gut. I call it our internal guidance system. Teaching our kids how to tap into their own. And theirs is not going to match ours. We all have our own to help create our own life. So our job is not to tell our children how to live their life, but to teach them how to create their own their own best life. And believe me, with 3 grown kids, I know we don't always agree with it at all. But your children will be happier in the long run and have the tools to create their best life if they know how to tap in, and they're not always waiting for someone else to tell them how to think, feel, act. We don't want to be that person.
So would you say, though, you don't like this kid and you're worried it's going to drag your kid into trouble, are you going to express that worry in a calm, mature way, or are you just going to ask your kid how he feels about that kid? How are you going to approach it? Just like a practical, yes. I love practical examples.
Of course, I do too. It really helps with the frame of reference. So definitely, again, going back to being what we feel is our best parenting. Of course, we want to say something to that child. We're just dying to say something, to them, warning that child or whatever. But it's really more about what you said, calmly having the discussion with your child. Tell me why you like that child. What is it that attracts you to that person? Can you figure out what you can learn from them? Depending on the age of your child, they may or may not ever be able to answer those questions, but it gives them the opportunity to explore their motivations and think about for themselves why they want that friendship. And they may not ever know, but as long as they have that desire, it's important to allow that within the safety. If you think that child is going to endanger your child, it's of course very important to have that kind of supervision and set the parameters that you feel good about to your child. Again, depending on the age, you can supervise, but once they become teenagers, and older kids, you're just not there to supervise. You're not there to see them and talk to them and guide them. So you have to know that they know how to tap into their own self to keep themselves safe.
Do the hard work while they're still little. But would you express to your worry, and would you express in a gentle way that you're worried that this child might have a negative influence, and you're worried how things might turn out? Would you express it, or would you just ask questions and allow the child to go within and teaching the child to be more introspective, basically?
I tried to never inflict my fears, if you will, on my kids. So telling them that I'm fearful, I'm worried, I felt it just teaches them that terminology, and it teaches them a way to be that doesn't serve them, being worried and fearful. It's really about the dialogue. And the more calm you are in every subject of your child's life, the more calm they're going to be. If we approach our child from, this is a disaster, something bad could happen, I'm worried for you, that affects them on every level, not just their brain, but on an energetic, inner level. I tried to take a deep breath and, as best I could, approach my child with dialogue, like you said, with questions and talking to them. But again, at the end of the day, it's allowing them to explore what they want to explore without our judgment or interference, just our guidance and support. It's just not easy all the time, but it's part of our highest job as parents, I believe.
Oh, it's like my mom is exactly the opposite. She's always so dramatic for everything. And I'm like, what happened? And she said, oh, I dropped the towel. Okay, and she's like, she worries for the smallest things, blows it out of proportion. And it made me grow as a nervous adult as well. I'm always like, dramatizing things, making mountains out of molehills. I'm not blaming my mom, but even last time she was here and she was watching me give birth, and she had the most scared expression on her face, and I thought I was dying. And just looking at her, I thought the worst is happening.
Right? Yes.
It's not imposing your fears on your children, because you're teaching them for life to have such emotional reactions to life, basically.
Exactly. And a tool that we can use is when we're faced with something where we want to have a knee-jerk reaction, that's very instinctual, is just being more deliberate. Once you have this information, it's hard to go backwards. So it's about okay, this is stressing me out. I want to freak out right now. Take a deep breath. You know, you probably know that taking deep breaths is very centering. And when we can just stop and stay in our own bodies, then we arm ourselves to better deal with our kids, to better talk to them from a place of being deliberate rather than freaking out. And I mean, I freaked out a million times with my kids before I learned an easier way. And it just never went well because, like you just said, they'd end up freaking out. And then there's no communication. It just makes it more difficult.
It escalates. Yeah.
It does. It does. It does. So what do you do when there is, let's say, a conflict with parent-child of any age? I think, well, we've probably all gotten in arguments with our children because of, you know, whatever the reason is. We're arguing and no one's getting anywhere. What we did in our family was we took timeouts, you know, both of us. I not just send my child to timeout and think about it, because that really never worked. It was about both of us taking a timeout, doing something fun until we both felt better, could come back together and talk about it. And
okay, timeout, not as a punishment, but timeout is go make yourself feel happier.
Exactly.
Oh, I love
exactly.
That.
Because
go to timeout and watch videos and play games.
Anytime I ever put my children in their punishment timeout, we never came back together better because they went away feeling like they were being punished, you know, and then where was I in all of that? So it's really more about equality. And you can do this with a child of any age. It's just like, mom's going to take a timeout, and I suggest that you do the same. Let's go each do something fun because I want to communicate with you. I want this to be a communication, not a fight. And to be honest, sometimes you have to come back together a couple of times. You don't just go away, get happy all the time. Depends on how much it is escalated, and come back and have that easy communication. And that's not always the case. Sometimes you have to go away for a longer period of time or talk about it the next day. But it's all about doing the work. It's about being willing to find that better feeling place and tap into your own guidance before you talk to anybody, let alone your children.
Yes, that's actually, as you said, for your whole life. Instead of when a client annoys you, pisses you off, instead of writing that email, go out, have dinner, go for a walk, and then react from a place of more emotional balance, basically. And true, why don't we apply this to our children? I've had friends that their parents and the child starts throwing tantrums, and the parent starts getting angrier and shouting more and more, and it escalates. It doesn't get better at all until someone totally breaks down of the two, and it just doesn't work. And I was like, how do you get out of such a situation, especially if you're in public? What happens when you're in public? I mean, and the child starts just melting down. And how do you contain such a situation?
Well, and that's, of course, a different situation. And if you have a young child that is melted down, I always found it really effective, because why are they doing it? They're feeling bad on some level, or they want attention. Every child is different. I always found it most effective because when you're in public, and it's really hard to do much of anything. I found ignoring my child and the behavior they were exhibiting without adding to that energy in any way was often effective, because they want that extra attention. And if you're just go about doing what you're doing and you're able to just deliberately tune them out, you're not fueling their fire, which is what kids want. I mean, we all want energy from others, and that is a younger child's way of demanding it.
Oh, they stay calm, and this calms them down as well, or gradually,
it's because I believe that our behavior is a choice. And when we can train ourselves to not be knee-jerk reactive, and that again goes back to taking that deep breath, to being deliberate in our response to our child. And we start that when they're tiny, when they're babies, 2 years old, on and on until when they're in their 20s, like mine. It's being deliberate in your response as opposed to being reactive, because reactive generally comes with drama and high emotion. And we just all know that doesn't work. If it worked, I'd say do it, but it doesn't.
No.
It doesn't. So it's not productive. And we want to be productive. We want to have an impact, a positive impact on our kids.
Yeah.
And that is one way to, if we stay calm, if we can choose to stay calm, and it is a training. You train yourself, deep breath. What's more important? My end result, wanting to have that communication with my child. Okay, well, I'm in charge of myself only. This is how I'm going to do. And I'm going to hope that today it inspires my child. And it may or may not. And it's always going to be different. But you then will at least control your own well-being.
Mm-hmm.
We can only be an inspiration to our kids or anybody on the planet when we're feeling good. That's our number one job in life, is to feel good. It's the only way to inspire anyone.
Wow. I mean, I think women should not become mothers before they're 40, to be honest, because we're just like, life is happening. We're less immature, but I guess the human female body just doesn't work like that still, because we need to be so conscious, and women are willing to try this kind of self-control and to start taking care and love themselves. Like you said, the most important thing is to make yourself to come from a place of balance and happiness. Only in later in age. Before that, we're very masochistic. Most women are. we almost like we even drawn to the drama, let's say. But
yes, drama is very energizing. I mean, drama gives us energy. But you know, Lada, I didn't just wake up one day and just decide to make a new choice. I had to hit what I call the parental brick wall. That means in my wanting to be an inspiration to my kids, I tried to control their behaviors, or how much they, you know, when they did their homework and if they kept their room clean, you know, all the everyday stuff. Mm-hmm. So much that it was hurting our relationship. And my youngest son, when he was 14, I hit that wall of not having any communication with him because I was trying to control how well he did in school, if he even did his homework. I wanted things to go well for him, and I thought I was in charge of it. Well, what do you think that did? It just made him rebellious and not know how to tap into his own self. So it's famous in our family how I hit that wall and I gave my son back his life on a silver platter, literally. And that story's in my
moment. Was it like an aha realization?
It was a complete aha moment where I realized what I was doing and that I could make a new choice, because my highest intention always was to have a good relationship with my kids. That was really my number one priority. And many parents will say, well, it's not my job to have a good relationship with them. I have to make sure they grow up okay and do this, that, and the other thing. And I mean, I understand that, but it doesn't work when you come from that place of control. Mm-hmm. Your children instinctively know at a very young age that they're here to create their own life. So when I did that, and it was not easy to do, believe me, because I had controlled my other daughters and tried to do all of that stuff. And we had drama in our family. And I had good kids, but I wanted to make sure they turned out okay. So again, I believed I was in control of that when I never was. And when I gave him his life back on a silver platter, I really allowed him to make all of his choices. And that's the part that was not easy, because I had never done that before. But I knew that I was in control of me, not him. And I really did do that. I was able to do it and not
overnight,
go back on it.
Like all of a sudden you come a new person and you tell him do whatever you want.
I hit that wall really hard. It hurt. It was a boom, a real big aha moment where I could stretch this out another week and keep controlling this, but it's not going to go any better than it has the last few years. So for me, it wasn't overnight. It was oh boy, I have to change this up because it's not taking me where I want to go. And as with every human in life, when they are free to tap into their own self, and he had the tools, I just had never allowed him to use the tools. That was the thing. I taught my kids how to tap into their own guidance. But when they went into the teen years, I went into fear. Oh my goodness, they're going to do terrible things, and on, you know, what we fear with teenagers.
because we've
So
done
so I stopped
I did.
allowing him to use any internal guidance. It's like, nope, I got this. I'm thinking, oh, I got this. I know how to do this better, because you're a teen, you don't know. But they do know. And they
And
do
was he
know.
like flabbergasted?
Yes. Oh my gosh. He was blown away at dinner. At dinner, he was blown away with me saying that.
Ah,
And
you told him officially. Now, from now on, you.
I told him officially, because it really was that uncomfortable. And I loved my son very much, and it had gotten that bad. And I told him officially. And then I had to allow him to do that. And I did. And again, it wasn't easy. I had to watch him like not do his homework. I had to watch him not get those great grades, what I thought he was capable of. But at the end of the day, that's not my job either. But do you know what? It turned around. It turned around, and he had to do it in his own heart at his own pace. And I could not be attached to the result of when is he going to, because that would have made us right back to where we were. So it was tough. I did it, and I've continued to do it, and I do it with all three of my kids. But I did have to hit that hard brick wall of things being really bad with my kids, because I thought I was in control. And so he went from the terrible student to graduated college with good grades, and now he's talking about getting his master's degree. So,
So how long did it take for you to start seeing the changes?
Oh my gosh, well, it's going to be different with every child. And in his heart, he was so grateful, and he got up and gave me a big hug, and he said, Mom, you have no idea what this means to me. It really changed our relationship. But it didn't change overnight, that all of a sudden he did his homework. No, and I don't remember the timing. But once he knew that I was allowing him to decide how he was going to run his life, he felt that freedom, that calm, not Mom standing over him with a hammer, so to speak, about, have you done your homework? Why isn't it done? Why isn't your room clean? You know, all the stuff that makes everybody crazy. Letting him choose for himself, whether I agreed with it or not, whether I kept my mouth closed and let him choose.
Wow, this is a beautiful story, and it proves it works. Because we never think that if we're kind of almost conditioned to think that if we let something go and allow others, everything will get ruined. Can we apply the same principle to relationships? What if your partner?
Yes, you have to. Oh, you have to. Yes, yes.
Nagging, and it's like, what do you do then?
Say again. I'm sorry, you cut out for a sec. What did you?
It seems like if it works on a child, it was going to work also in a personal relationship, in marriage, for example, or with a boyfriend, girlfriend. If they're not doing something you really need from them, or if you're trying to change them and control them, the same principles with your child. Do we do the same again? We take the back step and allow them to do whatever they want.
Well, that applies really to every relationship on the planet. So let's just take a broad subject. You know, we're talking relationship, but have you ever tried to control anyone? And how well did that really work out for you? Because, I mean, I have obviously with my kids, but I tried to also inflict what I believed on my husband. And because for whatever reason we think, oh, we have the answer, and that's going to turn out happiest if we do it my way. But people have to, my husband could not be more different than I am as a human being. And that's the beautiful part of it, is it is so totally different. But I had to learn to, okay, back off, just let him do his thing. It's not my business. And it's hard to say this, but it's not our business with our kids either. And I say that in the best way, meaning obviously our kids are our business, but how they choose and what they choose in their life and their creative process is not our business. In as far as trying to fix it, in as far as try to control it or make it different. Everybody has to learn for their own selves, because when they encounter negative things and things that they don't want, that's the entire process of clarifying what you do want. And if we're always telling our kids or someone in relationship what they should want or how they should do it, they never learn or are allowed to clarify for their own selves what pleases them and where they should go for their own best path. So yes, to answer your question, definitely, with everyone in your life.
But what if it's some kind of a behavior that might be very Uh, do you become enabling? Sometimes children go into drugs. Sometimes your husband might just drink from morning till evening. Do we just take a step back and let them do it? Because I'm giving very extreme example. That's very
Okay.
extreme. Or do we
Okay.
enable, or do we say, do we give a ultimatum, or how would you approach such a more complicated situation? That's like the really negative extreme.
But we encounter those kind of extremes, you know, I mean, often in our lives throughout the process of our lives. So I love that question because it's not about them. It's about our own internal guidance system and what we want. Okay, so if someone is, I do not believe that we just sit back and just let everybody do their own thing if it's going to personally make us unhappy. But can you change them? No, you cannot. We've all tried. But you can determine for yourself, and you have through your own life experience, on what you want to live with. So you have a spouse or a boyfriend or a girlfriend that has a pattern of behavior that really offends you, that doesn't work with your life. Well, if you've ever tried to change that behavior, you probably know how well it doesn't go.
Yes.
You have to decide for yourself how you're going to be happiest in that situation, because honestly, Lada, it's all about you, because we cannot control what makes others happy. We cannot control others' behaviors. So we choose that girlfriend if we're going to stay in relationship. We choose that boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, and that marriage. Yes, that is
we have to make ourselves be okay and accept that, and hope that the person heals, and that. Or if it's too detrimental, we might have to remove ourselves completely, because it's
yes and no, in as much as whatever brings us peace, if we can be peaceful when that person is exhibiting any sort of crazy behavior, and there's a million of them, if we can find peace in that, well, then there's no problem, is there? Then everybody lives. Then everybody lives in that relationship. Like, take for example, I have a girlfriend, and she basically sometimes makes me crazy just because of how she is. But I have to tell myself in explicit words, I don't need her to be any certain way to make me happy. I get to choose if I'm happy in this situation. I get to choose if I want to still be her friend. I get to choose. So the next time she makes me crazy, I have to start over on the dialogue, yes, because I have a certain expectation in my own head of how people should behave. Mm-hmm. But if I want someone to be in my life and they don't behave that way, it's up to me to change it up here. The dialogue I'm telling myself, rather than to complain about them and think that, oh, they're so awful. Okay, but then I don't need to be friends with them. So why am I still choosing to have them as a friend when I'm willing to ruin my own day and feel bad about it? That's what doesn't make sense.
So it's either you make yourself okay with it, and if you can't be, you just have to remove yourself. And I guess even in a situation with children, you can't fully remove yourself when they're children. That's a little bit different than other relationships. But maybe you can withdraw from their life when we're talking about self-harming behaviors, like drugs, for example.
Well, when you're talking about, drugs and you're watching your child do drugs, that you're right, it is an extreme example, but many of us have faced that. So do you say I don't care and do your own thing? No, I don't think you do.
You're not going to feel peaceful with that ever.
You're not going to feel peaceful with that ever. But I think we've also heard of that many parents are forced to distance themselves from that relationship because why? They have no control over the actions of their child. We can support, I remember one time with my kids, or one period of time, if I thought something was wrong with them or they were doing something crazy, weird, I took them to whatever specialist I thought could help them, particularly my son. Did any of it ever work? No, but it was all a lesson for me. It was part of my lesson in all of this. So in a way, it was all perfect, even though at the time it made me crazy. So do we make help available to our kids? Of course we do. Can we force them to take that help? No, we cannot. It's about being that rock for your child. It's about being that stability, that inspiration, that staying in our happy place, even when they're being crazy. Not easy to do, but that is the work. That is the work that we want to hopefully find that within ourselves, to be able to take that deep breath and do it and offer our help and guidance. Again, with the drugs, offering that help and offering that, maybe a professional. But we can't force our kids to participate. I tried and it never did work. They had to decide for themselves.
Wow, that's very, very true. And I mean, especially if a parent has a higher power that they can trust, that there is meaning in that and purpose, even if it's very painful now. That's what would help me. If I didn't have a higher power, I would probably be trying to control everything. But it's kind of
yes, and I love that you brought that up, because I've always been very connected to that higher power. But you know what made me forget that higher power was that fear I went into when my kids became teenagers. So I really had to come full circle with that. I had to learn my lessons, do it kind of all the wrong way, so to speak, and hit that parental brick wall, and then decide who I wanted to be moving forward. This person that tried to control everything, or calm down, let them choose for themselves. Yes, they're going to make mistakes and get hurt, but you know what? That's how they learn. It's not going to be the end of the world. And it wasn't. It wasn't. And I now have my personal ideal relationship with all three of my kids. But I had to earn it, so to speak. I had to allow them and to find their own way. And I still do, and the choices they make. I have to take that deep breath and just support them, because they're in charge.
Amazing. And actually, that was probably the best thing that happened to you, or the stress and hitting the brick wall, because look, this even turned into your vocation as well.
Exactly.
Even the darkest moments might be the biggest gems. They hold the biggest gems for us.
They really do. I mean, I completely believe that. I really do. And I try and take my positive outlook on life and keep it positive, and remember that even when things look terrible or they're going downhill fast, they really aren't. I think the most empowering thing, or one of them, that I would love parents to take away from any conversation about parenting, is that they are in charge, personally in charge of their own reactions and their own feelings. And I think we can forget that. When we knee-jerk ourselves into fear, wow, if we get a lot of momentum going, you can't just turn that off like that. So it's important to catch it early, to have that awareness. I'm in charge. I get to decide how I react and what I'm going to say and teach my child. So when we come from that place often enough, then we forget. We don't forget. Then we remember, because it becomes a habit. You become a strong habit of just more positivity toward your child, which is just more productive.
Wonderful. Okay, I have a last question then.
Okay.
I can listen to you for a whole day. You kind of soothing voice. It makes sense, and it feels like everything's gonna be okay. But one last question, remember, Sharon. When you're having problems in your own life, with husband, with money, with stresses, with health, do you share this with your child, or do you shield them from your own problems? Do you say everything is fine so you don't stress them and you don't impose your negativity on them? Or how would you approach such a situation? Because we all have very tough periods that we go through.
Yes, of course.
I would sometimes I would think like I would manipulate my child to feel sorry for me by, oh, poor me, look how, over dramatizing, because I'm very dramatic. I've learned this is how my parents kind of controlled me, by being very dramatic. So I'm like coming, and it works, because you start feeling sorry for the parent. You worry, and but you instill this worry. So how would you approach that? Sorry.
Lada, I think it's very important. And the place I always came from was not to burden my child. So I think it's important to teach your children that, guess what? Parents have feelings too. And today I'm feeling bad, or I'm feeling sad, or you know what? I'm grumpy today. I'm going to take my own time and spoil myself. So I'm going to remove myself from you, or whatever it is, to tell your child that you have these emotions. But I think it can really be a burden on a child to tell them what it's about. You know, I'm really grumpy today because your dad did this, that, and the other thing. I don't feel that's fair to a child, because it puts them on the defensive, and then they feel they have to judge a parent, the other parent. So I think it's really important to tell your kids you have emotions, and you can even describe what that emotion is, but not necessarily what it entails, because personal information, too personal, can burden a child. So they need to grow up knowing that all emotions are okay. We all have them. And too much sharing isn't comfortable for a child.
So instead of attaching the emotion to a specific event and making it more dramatic, we talk about the emotion. Maybe we don't hide that emotion, and we teach them emotional intelligence this way as well. But we don't involve them in daily problems and worries. I guess that's wonderful. I'm taking notes. I'll remember this.
Exactly. They need to know that all emotions are okay, and we all have them. Our whole lives are very important. All of them are important. But our children don't always need to know the gory details, if you will, of what we're going through and why. It doesn't help them. It won't serve them to know that mom's really upset specifically for this reason. It might upset the child, but they need to know that mom is feeling angry today, or sad, or whatever it is, because it gives them permission to have all emotions. And it's important that
you're not rejecting your feelings, you're not hiding them.
No, you're not hiding.
Not over dramatizing them either. So it teaches them also to be kind of healthy with their feelings, and not to reject, like people rejecting their shadow side, and yes, always positive, always happy, or something like that.
No, that's not productive. You don't want to teach a child that they always have to pretend they're happy, because that will come back to haunt all of us. We're not always happy.
Questions, I can keep you for hours. I'm sorry. Last thing.
Thank you.
Many parents worry about finances, and many families, children grow up in situations where there is insecurity. Nowadays, people, you see the economy. There is no security, even if you've stayed in a job for 20 years. And how do you protect yourself? And my parents with my brother, they never had money, and they kind of drummed into his head that money is so scarce, we never have money, and he's growing with that mentality of lack. How do we, because many parents that are going to watch this, they are in some financial situation. I have many single women as well, mothers that are bringing up children. How would you advise them to approach this? Obviously, they're living in stress, financial situation, and poverty. How would you advise them to present that to the child? Or maybe not to present it at all, and not to damage them into believing life is all about lack and
Okay, that's a great question. And what we say to our children on any subject, and now particularly finances, what we say to our kids is what they begin to internalize. So if we are teaching our children lack, they're going to grow up with a lackful perspective. They don't have a choice. That is what we have taught them. So what do we want to teach our kids? We want to teach our kids that all things are possible, that what we're living today has nothing to do with what we live tomorrow, because we get to make a new choice all the time in what we create. And where does creation start? With our thoughts. So if we're thinking and feeling lackful thoughts, it's only possible to create more lack. So I believe that we don't share our lack. Even if we feel that way, we don't share that with our kids, because I try to always keep in mind what I say to my kids, is this going to serve them or not serve them? That's really the bottom line question. And for me to tell them that we don't have enough, that we're in lack, that the world is lackful, will never serve them, because they're going to have to make their own way in this big world of ours. And I never wanted to send my kids out into the world thinking, I can't do this because things are so bad. I want them, no matter what the reality of the stock market or whatever is going on, I wanted my kids to go out into the world thinking and believing all things are possible, because I believe that to my core, that we create everything that we want. And I really believe it has nothing to do with what's going on out there.
Oh, I'm getting goosebumps. This feels so truthful. I get goosebumps when it feels truthful. So instead of saying, oh, like, you can't have this, of course, sometimes you can't buy them everything they have, but you say, at this period, we can't afford it, but, you know, envision things will change, and maybe even making a story around it, how it's going to be great in the down the line, how everything changes, never is stationary. Make it, even if they're very young, as a play. Let's imagine when things change very soon, when mommy is fine, how we gonna, you know, how we gonna travel and get all the toys you want, whatever, like something like that. I'm talking for younger children. For older, you can approach it in a different way, of course.
Yes, but always, exactly, but always being careful, use that term loosely, being aware, that's a better word, being aware that what we're saying to our child, we believe. So we want to paint a picture for them that we believe we can create. Over time, they're in charge of their own creation, but if we tell them how things are going to be in our family or whatever, we need to believe that those things are possible. Because kids always feel how you're feeling much more than they hear what you're saying. What we're feeling is so much more powerful, and many people don't realize that, than the words we're using. So we want to believe what we're saying to our kids, and we don't have to give them a lot of details. We can, and I believe that we don't want to use that word can't afford. I mean, does that feel good to anybody? Is that kind of instills a lackful attitude? We can't afford that. You know, a different terminology, or saying, you know, we're saving for that right now, or we're going to put that on our wish list. Will you help me make a wish list? You know, keeping things positive and always looking ahead to what you want. It's so important to have your desires, to know they're possible, and have big desires. And little kids, younger kids, can so much benefit by writing them down. Again, it becomes a vision board for your child. And vision boards are very powerful in helping you create what you want. Always about keeping it positive and fun, especially for younger kids.
Oh, amazing. Again, goosebumps. We were watching this video over and over. Wow, that's fantastic advice. Thank you so
Lada.
much.
This has been so much fun for me. Thank you, really, for the opportunity. What fun for me to talk about my favorite subject, kids and parenting.
Oh, and I've heard that you also, my friend told me that it's not only parenting, you also do life coaching, counseling, don't you?
Yes, teaching people how to work with the universal laws, law of attraction, through positivity and speaking and believing positively about things, because that's how I believe we create what we want, is by focusing on what we want as opposed to focusing on what we don't want.
I would love to have you back again for us to talk about that.
Thank
on the
you.
more universal life topics, and I'm sure all our viewers will be in love with you. Anyway.
I appreciate that.
You manifested in your life what you want, Sharon.
Thank you. Thank you. And I wish you the best as well, Lada. Thank you. This has been beautiful.
You can contact Sharon at SharonBallantine.com.
Yes.
I'll put a link below in the description so everyone can check your website and the book that you have the book, The Art of Blissful Parenting.
Yes.
And do you have other books?
Nope, that's the only book that I have. I have blogs on my website and audiobooks on Amazon. I try and have all sorts of different ways that parents can connect with me and you know, get through with more ease, because it's a big job, this parenting. We all know it's huge, and it's one day at a time.
Wonderful. Thank you. It's been my favorite interview in months. Honestly.
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you, Lada. I appreciate it.
Have a wonderful day. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And soon after I give birth, I'd love to have Sharon back again to talk. her energy and her insights. Hope you enjoyed that and learned so much. And I will see you soon, everyone. Bye bye.